Okay, I think
Okay,
I just did it. Gotcha. Okay.
it's fine.
Okay, perfect. Um, so are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So my first question is, how has propaganda and hate speech exacerbated the conflict in Myanmar, and what hateful narratives have been construed against the Rohingya particularly by like military officials and nationalist groups?
Well, I would like to start with a quotation. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said in June 2019, over the past 75 years, hate speech has been a precursor to atrocity crimes, including genocide from Rwanda to Bosnia to Cambodia. Now, back to your question. Propaganda and hate speech have indeed played a significant role in worsening the conflict in Myanmar, particularly by fueling violence and deepening divisions. First of all, systematic hate speech on platforms like Facebook has dehumanized the Rohingya Muslim minority and justified violence against them. Extremist Buddhist groups and nationalist leaders have portrayed Rohingya as illegal immigrants and a national security threat. Not only that, radical Buddhist nationalist groups like Mabata and monks like Ashin Viratu have spread hate speech targeting Muslims. Not only that, the Myanmar government and military, Tatmadaw, have used propaganda to justify military operations in Rakhine State as anti-terrorism efforts, masking human rights abuses. And similar hate speech and propaganda have framed other ethnic minorities, not only the Rohingya, like the Kachin and Shan, as rebels, dismissing their legitimate grievances. And while talking about the hateful narratives against the Rohingya, I may say that the Rohingyas are derogatory, labeled as Bengalis. Now, it's very interesting that Bengali, the term Bengali, it refers to a particular ethno-linguistic group in Southeast Asia, not only Southeast Asia, in the entire world. And I would like to share with you that I'm also Bengali, but when it comes in the context of Myanmar, the term Bengali refers to the illegal immigrant from Bangladesh. Not only Bengalis, there is another term which is used very pejoratively, that is Kalar. And yes, illegal immigrants from Bangladesh, and they are dehumanized repeatedly as dogs, maggots, and yes, rapists. They are portrayed by the military and nationalist groups as a security threat, accused of harboring terrorists and being linked to extremist Islamic movements. Nationalist figures describe the Rohingya as subhuman or vermin. And groups like Mawata propagate the idea that the Rohingya and Muslims aim to spread Islam and replace Buddhism in Myanmar. And Rohingya people are accused of trying to take over the Rakhine state by outnumbering the local Buddhist population through large families, threatening jobs and resources. So I think I have answered your question.
Yes, absolutely. So you mentioned a lot of these like harmful, hateful narratives and the violence that has been spread against the Rohingya. Like, what do you
Yes.
think the role of like Facebook and like social media platforms has like played in the perpetuation of like these of this violence?
Oh no, you froze. Would you please repeat your question
Oh
once
yeah, I'm
again?
sorry. I just said that like you mentioned a lot of the violence that has been perpetuated against the Rohingya and all these hateful narratives, such as like the slurs that have been used against them. How do you think
Yes.
like Facebook and like social media have like played a role in perpetuating these really harmful narratives?
Yes, absolutely. I would like to give an example. I found it in a certain report by Reuters, which was published in 2018. A certain Burmese Facebook user in 2013, the person wrote, "We must fight them the way Hitler did the Jews, damn colors." Oh my God. And this post was not removed even after Mark Zuckerberg's promise to take action. Uh, Anyway, the UN's independent international fact-finding mission on Myanmar said that the role of social media was significant in the atrocities in a country where Facebook is the internet. I would like to read out a portion from this report. The role of social media is significant. Facebook has been a useful instrument for those seeking to spread hate in a context where, for most users, Facebook is the internet. Although improved in recent months, the response of Facebook has been slow and ineffective. The extent to which Facebook posts and messages have led to real world discrimination and violence must be independently and thoroughly examined. The mission regrets that Facebook is unable to provide country-specific data about the spread of hate speech on its platform, which is imperative to assess the adequacy of its response. Now, this is something which did not happen abruptly. There was a very strong background. If we just have a look at the history of Myanmar people or Burmese people using internet and Facebook, we can see that until 2012, Myanmar was one of the least connected countries with only 1.1% of the population using the internet. In 2013, there was a change in this picture. And by 2016, almost half the population had mobile phones, mostly smartphones with internet access. Facebook quickly became the dominant app. It served as a messaging platform, news source, and yes, entertainment hub, and it even became a status symbol. Mobile operators encouraged its use by offering free access without data charge. For most Burmese people, internet means Facebook. Now, the Myanmar government also uses Facebook for official announcements and, yes, to spread hate speech. For example, Senior General Min Aung Ilang, I don't know whether I'm pronouncing the name correctly, the leader of Myanmar's military, posted on his Facebook page in 2017, "We openly declared that absolutely our country has no Rohingya race." Now, of course, all these things did not go without an alarm. In the fall of 2013, Ila Kelan, an Australian documentary filmmaker studying at Stanford University, began a project on hate speech and false reports spread online during the 2012 conflict between Buddhists and Rohingya Muslims. During that time, one Buddhist nationalist group even set up a page called the Color Beheading Gang. In November 2013, she met Elliot Schrage. Elliot Schrage is the vice president of communication and public policy of Facebook. At least he was at that time, and tried to alert him, but the meeting was not fruitful. Matt Schiller, he is a doctoral student at the University of Michigan, communicated with Facebook officials between March and December 2014, warning them about the platform's role in spreading hate speech and false rumors in Myanmar, including through fake accounts. He and other activists provided specific examples, such as Burmese Facebook page titled, "We will genocide all of the Muslims and feed them to dogs." But again, this alert was not, it was not taken seriously. And as per Reuters report in 2018, Facebook used to contact local agencies like Eco Myanmar, that is a local agency led by Anthony Lermon, for tasks other than content monitoring. Now, this Lermon expressed controversial views on the Rohingya crisis in 2016. He dismissed UN accusations of ethnic cleansing and suggested that Rohingya exaggerated their plight for aid. And ironically, he shared his comments on Facebook. Now, Facebook's algorithms prioritized content that sparked engagement, often promoting divisive and sensational posts that received more likes, shares, and comments, as we all know. As users engaged with anti-Rohingya content, Facebook's recommendation algorithms further pushed similar content. According to a report by Amnesty International, while the Myanmar military was committing crimes against humanity against the Rohingya, Meta was profiting from the echo chamber of hatred created by its hate spiraling algorithms. And there is another exciting news. While I was researching about this topic, I came to know this, that Meta supported a civil society-led anti-hate initiative, which in the local language is called Panzagar. It can be translated like flower speech, an opposite of hate speech. And what this initiative did, that was they released some Facebook stickers with messages like, "Think before you share," and "Don't be the cause of violence," like this, to counteract hate content. However, it just backfired. Facebook's algorithms interpreted the use of these stickers as a sign that people were enjoying this post and began promoting them. And instead of reducing the number of viewers, the stickers actually made the post more visible. And by a certain whistleblower from Facebook, we have come to know this that he's saying somewhere in August 2019 that we have compelling evidence that our core product mechanics, such as virality, recommendations, and optimizing for engagement, are a significant part of why these types of speech flourish on the platform. So, yes, that was the problem.
Yes, absolutely. So I think you do a really good job of explaining how hate speech is perpetuated on social media. And I think that obviously leads to real world consequences as you talk about. Is there any like specific events of violence against like the Rohingya people that like stand out to you as ones that were like directly caused by Facebook or like another social media platform?
Absolutely, yes. The one incident that I'm remembering right now, that is the July 2014 riot that broke out in the central city of Mandalay in Myanmar after false rumors spread online on Facebook and elsewhere that the rumor was a Muslim man had raped a Buddhist woman. And not only that, I was talking about the Buddhist monk Viratu, whose inflammatory posts and speeches often preceded violent outbreaks as his followers took to the streets to attack Muslim communities. And there are proofs that in 2017, Facebook accounts linked to Myanmar's military were found to have orchestrated large scale disinformation campaigns posting inflammatory contents inciting violence against the Rohingya. So, yes, there are incidents like this.
For sure. And, you know, in like these social media platforms perpetuating all this hate speech and this violence, to what extent do you think they have, a legal responsibility to counter it? And what extent do you think they have a moral responsibility to solve back for all these for all this hate speech?
See, I do believe that social media companies have both a moral and legal responsibility to prevent the spread of genocidal rhetoric on their platforms because the enormous role they play in shaping public discourse and their potential to enable real world harm. And social media platforms are, I think, active. I mean, if we are referring to the 10 stages of genocide, then of course, in stage 4, dehumanization, stage 6, polarization, and stage 10, denial. Not only that, given that social media companies profit from the engagement generated by inflammatory and sensational content, they have a moral obligation to prioritize the safety of the marginalized and vulnerable communities. They should take active steps to prevent their platforms from being used to, what should I say, orchestrate or support acts of violence. Here, I'm a certain remark by Amnesty International Secretary General Agnes Callamard. She said, Meta has a responsibility under international human rights standards to remediate the terrible harm suffered by the Rohingya that they contributed to. And not only that, under international law as well, particularly the Genocide Convention and the ICC Roman Statute. States are obligated to prevent genocide, but yes, social media companies are not states, but they could still be held accountable if their platforms enable the spread of such genocidal crime, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And I know you say that like obviously I agree that they should be held morally and legally responsible for perpetuating these atrocities. What do you think, like in terms of the status quo, as of how successful they've been in actually being responsible and solving back for these hate crimes?
Oh, I'm sorry, would you please repeat your question once more?
Oh yeah, yeah, of course. Sorry. So, obviously, like in theory, like social media companies should be held morally and legally responsible for perpetuating hate speech and perpetuating all these atrocities. However, right now, how successful do you think they've been in actually moderating hate speech and, truly solving back for these issues?
Okay. Yes. So I would say that Facebook's, if we are sticking to Facebook, then their content moderation approach, I would say that it failed in a certain extent in the issue regarding the Rohingya. I was talking about a certain person who is a scholar, Matt Chisler. He was a part of a private Facebook group where Myanmar human rights activists, researchers, and company employees they discussed handling hate speech. And these people raised concerns about Facebook's flawed reporting system. I am remembering a certain incident here where there was a photo of a certain Burmese, I mean, he was a Rohingya, of course, a certain Burmese person, and he was a human rights activist. And on that particular Facebook post, he was labeled as a traitor, of course, in Burmese language. Okay. And it was shared for more than 1,000 times. And when reported as harassment, Facebook responded that the photo did not violate its standard. After 6 weeks and multiple complaints, a Facebook employee clarified that only the photo was reported, not the comment. So that is an example of how flawed the system is. And I would like to draw your attention to another point. That is, despite earning $15.9 billion in 2017, Facebook allocated minimal resources to combat hate speech in Myanmar. In 2015, only two Facebook employees spoke Burmese and reviewed problematic posts. And that year, Facebook had 7.3 million active users in Myanmar. Earlier reviews were handled by English speakers who did not know the language at all. Even in 2018, after the genocide occurred, Facebook had no employees in Myanmar and they kept monitoring hate speech remotely through from Kuala Lumpur. And another problem in content moderation, that is, many users in Myanmar didn't use Unicode for online posts, and they used it's pronounced, I don't know how it's pronounced, it's spelled like Zawgye, probably it's Zogi, a local, which is a local alternative. Now, Facebook's content moderation tool, which relied on Unicode, often mistranslates Burmese posts written in Zogi. For example, Reuters found a Facebook post of 2017 that said in Burmese, that was written in Burmese, kill all the colors. Color is a pejorative term. Kill all the colors that you see in Myanmar. None of them should be left alive. Now, very surprisingly, when Facebook is translating English, the translation went like, I shouldn't have a rainbow in Myanmar. So I hope you can understand how problematic the content moderation system is. And yes, I wouldn't say that Facebook did not take an initiative, but I would rather say all the initiatives were faulty.
I definitely agree. And that, right now I think that Facebook is really not doing enough to combat all of these issues and that they should indefinitely be accountable, but there are definitely some, barriers to doing that. So what would you say like the legal, social, and kind of like I guess like political barriers to actually holding these companies accountable?
See, first of all, I think more human involvement is necessary. First of all, to overcome the linguistic and you may say contextual barriers, and especially in countries where incidents of ethnic violence are becoming very evident. And yes, I also think that legal frameworks should be more strengthened to address such crimes of spreading hate speech and rumor via social media platforms. I would like to say something here that is, yes, Genocide Watch is also planning to start a project to identify hate speech instantly after their, I mean, immediately after they're posted on any social media platform. But as much as I know, information related to this is strictly confidential. So anyway, and yes, apart from that, I think that should be the, what should I say, most important way to handle such things. I mean, more human involvement should be there. Human involvement in the sense people who have a very strong sense of the language in which such hate speech are being spread.
Absolutely. Um, Sorry, this is kind of like a little bit, this is like related, but do you know anything about like the law in the US, like Section 230?
Simone, I'm very sorry. I'm not a legal expert,
Oh
so
no, sorry. Wait, this is sorry, not I was I wasn't expecting you to know. I was just curious. Um,
no.
oh no, sorry. Okay, just because it's like a really big like topic in this debate because it just essentially like prevents like legally holding companies in the United States liable for
Right.
anything posted on their platform. So I was just curious like how you would say like what activists need to do in order to like get around like the kind of like legal barriers and kind of like what the dangers of not trying to like overcome these barriers even though it might seem like kind of unfeasible or like challenging.
if we are not overcoming these barriers, see, the long-term consequences, what should I say, can be profound and multifaceted. Like, see, increased polarization and discrimination, isn't it? And communities will be fragmented with, what should I say, decreased collaborative efforts towards peace and reconciliation. And yes, incitement to more violence, and in retaliation, further violence, cycle of violence, actually. Distorted history and normalization of hate, decreased democracy, I mean, no democracy at all, and encouragement to authoritarian regime or government, an overall threat to human rights and severe economic consequences. And not only that, alternatively, what should I say, it may also lead to a limitation on free speech, isn't it? If there is any country who is the government of which is willing to put a stop on this, all these things, spreading hate speech and everything, it may also lead to a limitation on free speech, as the inability of social media companies to self-regulate may prompt governments and international bodies to impose stricter regulations on the use of these platforms. So, yes, what worse thing can happen to us? Oh my God.
Yes, absolutely. And I think we both agree that action definitely needs to be taken. So I know you kind of touched on this earlier with like increased human involvement and like more like effort on the side of like social media companies. But like, do you have any other like concepts, like other courses of action that could be taken, like especially by like, like nonprofit organizations like Genocide Watch or like activists or just honestly even like, your average person, like what can we do to, try to combat violence in these situations?
What can we do? I mean, the common users of social media platforms, we should stop spreading hate speech. That's it. And we should we should not encourage people doing all these things. And you know what? I don't know this content moderation system when it will be better. I mean, when it will be improved by Facebook and other social media platforms. Since I'm in India, I would like I'm not I would really not like to, but there is a thing that in India also, social media platforms like Facebook, WhatsApp, Telegram, Twitter, all these things have been used to spread rumors and hate speech against a particular community, not only a particular community, several communities. And we have instances where these things have led to bloody violence. So yes, it is the, what should I say, it is the duty of us, the common users of all the social media platforms, to be aware of the consequences of these things, and we should immediately stop spreading all these things. If the reporting thing does not work, then I will suggest what I usually suggest to all people around me: whenever you come across any such post, just try to delete it. Just don't try to report it. I mean, it will not work. We know that, because those people will not understand. For example, something is written in my language, is Bengali. Something is written in any Indian regional language. Facebook people will not understand that. So it's better to delete it. If you're receiving something on WhatsApp, just don't spread it. Just don't ask anything about it. So I think that's how we can stop that problematic thing, algorithm.
Mhm. Absolutely. And you kind of mentioned how like you've also seen like the issue of hate speech kind of manifest itself in India. So that kind of I wonder like where do you see like parallels in terms of like how like social media is like fueling hate in Myanmar and like other places around the world?
Oh my God. Yes, there are parallels, several. See, I am remembering a certain person here, David Madden, who is a tech entrepreneur living in Myanmar, who made a presentation at Facebook headquarters back in probably 2017, warning that Myanmar's Muslim minority was being targeted with hate speech. He said there that an analogy can be drawn between how radio was used in pre-genocide Rwanda and how Facebook was being used in the then Myanmar. He said Facebook runs the risk of being in Myanmar what radios were in Rwanda. Now, in present day, we have seen such instances in Ethiopia during the Tigray War between 2020 and 2022, where Facebook was used to spread hate speech against the Tigrayan people. Facebook, as I have already said, Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter, and Telegram have been used in India to spread hate speech and rumors against communities. Not only that, ISIS used Facebook as a platform for human trafficking and slave trade. And I must say that this is not something new. In the pre-internet era, media was widely used to spread propaganda. For example, uh, I'm not remembering the exact German name, but it could be translated as People's Observer. That was a very infamous Nazi newspaper, which was used to spread anti Semitic propaganda. Not only that, there was another newspaper, Der Stürmer, if I'm not wrong. And more newspapers, and not only that, films were also used to spread Nazi propaganda. And as David Madden was saying, I was talking about him just a few minutes ago, radio station RTLM in Rwanda that was used to spread anti-Tutsi hate speech and incite the Hutu to commit genocide against the Tutsis. And popular singers like Simon Bikindi, probably his name was like that. These people were used to spread anti-Tutsi hate speech and propaganda. So yes, media can play, what should I say, a dangerous role in brainwashing people, spreading propaganda and hate speech, and which can finally culminate into a horrible genocide. So we should be.
Absolutely. And like as we see that hate speech is really influencing so many different parts of the world and
Yes.
costing, real lives. So like holistically, we kind of talked about this earlier, but what do you think like the long-term like consequences of like failing to counter hate speech are?
Yes, I think I was talking about the long-term
Yeah.
consequences, like the increasing of polarization and discrimination, which may finally lead to genocide, and the communities will stop trusting each other. And not only that, I think, what should I say, transnational relationships will be worsened. There will be more wars, and yes, I mean, the thing which I'm very much, what should I say? What should I say? I'm very much worried about that is violence always incites violence. So that's why I think if we do not check on the use of social media to spread hate speech and rumors and propaganda, I think there will be violence after violence. There will be an eternal cycle of violence.
Okay, that is all of my questions. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I truly appreciate it. I will ensure to send you the article when I'm done so that you can read it. I will definitely be making good use of all of your quotes. This was wonderful.
Thank you so much for inviting me. That
Of
was
course.
an enlightening talk, I must say.